Hey, Doug DeVitri here, and in this module, we're going to talk about how to create visuals for your screen-to-screen selling process or your appointment. So what we're going to share with you are, and really answer this question, are impromptu visuals better than visuals created ahead of time? You have the digital whiteboard at your disposal. Is it better to draw on a kind of blank napkin, or is it better to have these slides or images that you can just load in at a specific point? Also, where do you find the most attractive visuals without spending a ton of money? Rather than hiring a graphic artist or designer to create some of these, where can you find them that are no or low cost? And then finally, what are screenshot templates and how could they can train your customers to buy or make decisions that they would encounter on a regular basis? So really what we're looking at is this is what the Doceri app looks like right here. And so you can see that if I were to click on this little pen, I would be able to, let's say draw a question mark. Or if I wanted to click on this right here, it's a little red marker. So you kind of get the point where we can I'll even highlight, the arrow. So you're going to want to ask yourself a question, is it better for me to draw one of these out? Or is it better to have it look pretty? Well, here's my take on it, my opinion, just from doing this a number of times. The impromptu visuals are 10 times better because they lend to the credibility of being in the moment with the client. So in other words, if you were to load up a visual, that makes an assumption that you're already going to solve their problem, and they might even perceive that as you trying to sell them something or get them hooked on a specific idea. So that's why I like the impromptu visuals. But again, sometimes you can't read my handwriting, especially if I'm trying to go really, really quick. So those are just kind of some of the things that you'll experience as you start to draw some of these visuals out. So some of the advantages of them are is they're more impressive than preloaded slides. Again, they're in the moment, they're solving people's problems just as long as you're able to kind of visualize or draw out the concept in mind. Also, it engages customers at a higher level because really what you're doing is if you're asking them questions on a kind of in a numbered format. I'll give you another example of what this might look like. So if I were to ask you, what's the number one, number two, number three thing that you want to talk about, obviously by them telling you over the phone, you're kind of just inserting it exactly where it's supposed to go. So it really does allow for more flexibility and creativity than a preloaded slide, which demonstrates you as the specific expert. Well, there's some disadvantages though to the impromptu visuals. I really have first grade handwriting, so it really takes me an extra effort or to be cognizant of the fact that my handwriting is bad, so I have to be a little slower as I start to write out. Now with entrepreneurs, they don't really care so much about your handwriting, but when you take it to the corporate market, they're going to be sticklers about it. So just be aware of that. Also, on the impromptu visuals, it takes more time to be able to create them or write them. So in other words, if you already have something complex that you potentially would want to draw out, well gosh, it might take you, 5 minutes to be able to draw something out, and you potentially have lost the customer. So that sometimes the preloaded slides can be an advantage. Also, when you draw a box and boxes and figures, and you try and outline them, with the pen or the stylus on your iPad, sometimes they can be a little distorted and it's really hard to read. So there's some advantages really with coming with some preloaded slides. And I have several different examples that I use pretty much on a regular basis when I'm working with clients. If I'm talking about strategy and operations, I'll usually pull up this visual that talks about how to decrease the decision-making time. First, we start with the objective, then we talk about the tactic, and then the execution, and then finally, the accountability. So really what the preloaded slide allows me to do is kind of move the customer in the direction based off of this is what they wanted to know. They wanted to know how to decrease their decision-making time, so I knew to be able to pull up this slide, which is a whole lot easier for me to pull this up, and it's also visually appealing as well for them. So again, it's faster to load the slide than draw the same visual. It's much clearer and to be able to see and visualize around a specific issue, and it's easy to use over and over with similar customer types. Some of the disadvantages. it's not spontaneous. Now, it may be spontaneous in the fact that you're able to load it quickly, but again, it's something that it could be conceived as a pre-canned solution that you're trying to sell rather than identify what the customer's needs are. Next is really these visuals must be loaded quickly, and that's a skill set that we're going to identify in a later module on how to insert these types of slides into your screen-to-screen selling presentations. And really, one of the disadvantages is it signals the buyer that this is a visual used for selling or used for persuasion. One of my mentors, Alan Weiss, says when you have the question and you have the visual, you own the conversation. Well, taken to an extreme, if customers, especially screen-to-screen, think that you're trying to control the conversation by pigeonhole them into a specific answer, may be a big turnoff and actually work against your favor. So really, a very quick way to create some visuals is from your existing PowerPoint presentations. Now, again, one of the things that we don't like, even though we are using PowerPoint to kind of guide us through this process, with a customer, they're going to have different needs in different orders. So in other words, let's say if you had 20 slides in your presentation, you might go from slide 2 to 15, back to 5, back to 6, because sometimes customers have different questions in different order. Well, so what we're able to do with screen-to-screen selling is take your existing PowerPoint presentation, and for each slide, we're able to create an image of each slide. So the really way to do that is actually very easy inside of PowerPoint. If you open up the PowerPoint file, and then at the very top left, you choose File from the menu, there's a little option that says Save as Pictures. And then the next menu that pops up says we'll name the folder of the pictures, which is really kind of the name of the PowerPoint presentation. And so then once you've exported all of your slides into this, or images into this folder, the next thing you would do is import that folder of pictures into your iPhoto library. Now we have a whole different module set aside on how to do that, but just realize that if you already have your PowerPoint presentation, you already have these slides created, why take the time to try and redraw them or recreate them when you can just repurpose what you already have? So really, this is what it looks like here at the very top as far as the visual. I know sometimes it's easier to see the visual. Just come up to the top, click File, Save as Pictures. The new menu pops open in a little box, and then you just type in the name of the folder of the images, and then you import it into your iPhoto library. Or also the Doceri app allows you to get it inside of iTunes without using iPhoto. So if you're not a Mac user and you want to use, if you're using a PC, you don't have to go the iPhoto route. It's just so you're aware of that. So another way to get visuals for your screen-to-screen selling meetings is to take screenshots of what already exists on your iPad, especially if you use that screen over and over again with different customers. So and this works with the iPhone too. You can see here at the very bottom, this is just the visual of the iPad right here. Step number 1, I guess a step before this, number 1 would be open up the screen to the kind of where you want to take a picture of whatever appears on the iPad. So in other words, if it's a Google map, you have the Google map opened up on your iPad, and then you kind of follow this process. So step number 1 is to kind of click the home button, and while you hold down the home button, then you press the kind of the power off button at the top. What's going to end up happening is your iPad's going to flash, and what's going to do is store the screenshot of whatever appears on the iPad into your iPad camera roll. So in the iPad language, the camera roll is kind of a folder that stores all of your pictures that you might take, using the built-in camera, or also the screenshots that you take of whatever appears on your iPad. So it's going to takes a little bit of practice to do it. So you hold down the home button at the bottom and then hit the top. You do it kind of at the same time. It flashes. You do that over and over again. It gets really easy kind of as moving forward. So here's just some examples that we use sometimes working with clients. This is an app called Wunderlist. So really, if we're talking with a client, what's the number 1 thing you want to do as a result? Well, gosh, we need to create a strategy. Now they said that, you didn't say that, so Be careful that you're leading your customer down something that they didn't necessarily agree to. That's one of the big mistakes you can make on screen-to-screen selling, is assuming based off of even a previous conversation that a similar customer might want the same thing. The next thing you might want to do is design operations. And that's what they said to you. So again, just an example of what would appear on the app as a visual. Take a screenshot of it, put that in your camera roll. Now it becomes a nice little template for you to be able to draw on. Also, if you're using Google Maps, sometimes if you want to do, drawing boundaries, like you're going to target this specific region right here, and then if you wanted to say this is another, we'll actually can change the color on here. So let's say the blue region. This is our second target market. So this is number 2. This is our number 1 market. And then anybody outside is going to be number 3. So you can do that if you're using the same geographic market. I've already taken a screenshot of the image to be able to show you as an example of how you can use that as a visual. Also, this is an app called SG Project Pro. I'll go ahead and write that out for you in case you're looking for a good project management system. SG Project Pro. And this is an expensive app. This is like $100. But really, what you do is if you're talking with a client as far as the number of tasks that are involved in a specific project, here's all the different tasks that you have to do. Here's how long it's going to take. Here's when the start time is. Here's when the end time is. This is the percent that's done. Here's the people that are involved. So you could actually write these out as you're having the conversation with an individual if you're trying to help them, obviously with the task of this being project management. Also, if you use a calendar on a regular basis, you could even block out on your template, you could even block out the dates right here and just use Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and use this as a timeline. So for, at 9 a.m., we're going to do prospecting. And again, this is just the app that we've taken a screenshot of and being able to use in the conversation. So there's a lot of different ways. This app is called Frame Artist. This helps us frame conversations, so you can even create visuals inside the visual. Frame Artist is the name of the app, and this is also located in our recommended tools section, which mention, here's the link for it, screentoScreenselling.com/recommended-tools. Inside of this link, we give you the quick links to all the apps and the tools we recommend, especially the ones that we did on this module. The download Evernote file that gives you quick access. And also we encourage you to share some of your favorites, images that you like to use during your screen-to-screen selling calls. The way that we benefit is by working together as a community, because there's always a new way of doing it, and it's kind of our role and our job to kind of push each other to be the very best that we can. So make sure that you take advantage of all the other trainings and role play exercises that are coming as part of being a Elite member. Look forward to seeing you in the next training.